Hi, my name is Dawn Strait, and I'll be speaking to you today about the assertion theory, assertive skills, and it's actually assertive behavior also. One thing I would like to tell you is we have rights. I researched back, and FISCL said that individuals possess certain rights. Assertion is rights. These rights include fundamentals such as the right to refuse requests without having to feel guilty or selfish, the right to have one's known needs be as important as the needs of other people, the right to make mistakes, and the right to express ourselves as long as we don't violate the rights of others. Now, isn't that good to know? Let me tell you a little bit about Fayez. He was educated at Harvard and a couple other colleges. And according to Verita of Living Institute, his messages are powerful and they can change an individual and collective beliefs in moments. He is a renowned speaker in behavioral issues, religious issues, relationships. He has written a lot of books. He has videos if you want to watch some YouTube videos and learn a little bit about him. He is speaking now. Most of his speaking is being done in Pakistan. He also said the three behavioral responses, there's assertiveness, and he called non-assertiveness, which we call passiveness, and then there's aggressiveness. He claims that aggressiveness and non-assertiveness are dysfunctional because they're at extremes, and assertiveness is a balanced reaction because you're taking both people's needs in consideration. Assertiveness is related to, in our handbook, the Interpersonal Communication, where we went through the 5 main personality traits. One of them was extroversion. Well, that's what assertiveness is related to because, being extroverted, you're assertive, you're self-confident, you like speaking to other people, you're not afraid to speak to other people. So that's what that's like being. Your passive and your aggressiveness is more neuroticism. You get angry maybe or depressed. They're two inefficient behaviors, and they, according to How to Be Assertive and many other references, aggressiveness is being selfish. You're going to get what you want no matter what it takes, and you may take something without even asking, and then if you become too aggressive, and it may lead to violence, and that's sad then when it leads to violence. Now, passive is on the other end, and the Mayo Clinic says that you're giving permission to other people to take advantage of your wants and needs. You're not saying anything, you're not saying no, you're just letting things happen, and you're internalizing everything. And you're internalizing your feelings, you're internalizing the anger, you're internalizing resentment toward the person. You're becoming a victim. And this is not good either, because then you may have big, deep depression problems, and that's going to dissolve a relationship also. And when everything terminates inside of you, then you tend to resent the person. Now, assertiveness as a skill, it can be learned at any age. Now, I can remember back when I was in high school. I think that some of this assertive skills is related to birth order, because I had an older sister, and when I had a grade problem in school or any kind of a problem, I would go to my older sister and tell her about it, and I said, "Oh, would you please go talk to the teacher for me?" And then she would go in and talk to the teacher and find out what went on, and I'd let her be the bad guy, and she'd come back home and resolve it and all. But she should have been teaching me assertive skills, because then further when I got into life and I got into relationships with guys or whatever, And then I tend to pick people that were aggressive. And then I became more passive, and I went through my life being passive. And then I was internalizing everything, and it led to depression. And a big thing that it led to was codependency. And that becomes a big problem. So I had started going to dialectical behavioral therapy. And before we get into that, I'd like to just suggest a few things. This assertiveness, they say for verbal skills, they recommend that you use I statements and do not be afraid to say no. I was afraid to say no. Say no because you can't do something, or say no because you don't want to do something. A lot of people are afraid to say no because they think, oh, the person won't like me, and then it'll end the relationship. Well, now that we're older and we're wiser, we say, well, let the relationship end. But when you're young, I don't know. It says, do not use domineering or superior words. A word should be objective, direct, and honest about your feelings and thoughts. According to the Counseling Center of North Dakota, there is an assertive formula. Use because, I feel, when you, or I want and need. Assertive nonverbal behavior. One important thing is eye contact, appropriate gestures, active listening, avoid fidgeting, control your emotions. And one thing that 3 effective skills, you should control your voice. It should be calm. You don't want to have too high-pitched of a voice. You want to enunciate your words. Use your correct word choice. Don't use off-color language. You want to use respectful language. You don't want to have your volume too high to make them think that you're angry. Use like a conversational voice like you would have with a friend. But if it's an important thing and you need to tell the seriousness of it, then, you might want to emphasize it. As in our skills training manual line, it says, practice, practice, practice. Practice in front of a friend. Practice in front of a mirror. Practice. She says any skill you have to practice. That's not unusual. Using in employment, it's good to use a win-win strategy. A win-win strategy that was made up is separate the people from the problem, using an objective criteria. Have an alternative negotiation. Focus on interest and not on the problem. Now, if you find yourself in a problem, like I found myself in a problem, go for dialectical behavioral therapy. You can get books off of Amazon, off of the internet, or you could go to a clinic or an educational class. Maybe they have a training class somewhere on assertive training. DBT has an acronym. It's called Dear Man. So you get there. You describe the situation, express an opinion, feeling, exert what you need or want, say no. Reinforce the person ahead of time. Stay mindful of what you need or want despite the other person's behavior. But the other person's being aggressive or passive, try to keep focused on what you're saying. Appear confident and negotiate. For assertiveness, you want to be collaborative. You want to be diplomatic. You want to be, you want to be not compromising your values, but compromising what can be compromised. Assertiveness in children. You want to teach your children how to be assertive. According to Chelsea Smith, she gives a couple of examples of how to train your children to be assertive. You want to start them early because there's bullying in school going on. She says have your children play with toys, have a doll or something, take away a toy, and have the child say, I'm using this right now, but when I am finished, I will give it to you. This is an appropriate way to speak to another child. There's other tools that she showed. Assertiveness in religion. Blaine Smith, 2018, said in her article that assertiveness can be spiritually healthy. And one way this can be is you got to learn to love yourself before you can love others. You want to understand your needs so you can understand other needs. You have to know yourself before you can give yourself away. A disadvantage of assertiveness is false hope. Everything might not work out.